name's Evan Patrone. I'm 20 years old and I grew up in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. I think for me, music is very much a relaxation technique. I grew up despising my mother for forcing me to take piano lessons when I was little. You know, we bought a beautiful baby grand piano, and my brother and my sister and I, we all had to take piano lessons, and I hated it. And it wasn't until my mother finally let me quit when I was in the 6th grade, and I had at that point picked up saxophone and stuff like that. And it was such a relief to quit, and in high school, for whatever reason, I got back into it and just discovered it to be the most relaxing thing ever for me.
I'm really into the soundtrack to Perfect Storm right now. James Horner. That man just writes music for the oceans.
I was in my senior year and just fooling around with my friends from band after school. And I mean, everybody at that point knew all the weird stuff I could do as far as like, you know, turning our arms over my head and all the crazy stretches I could do. And somebody just happened to mention to me like, hey, can you play the piano backwards? And sat down right there and we played Heart and Soul on the piano with me backwards. And nobody really thought anything of it. It just like looked really weird. And then I videotaped myself and put it on YouTube. I had somewhere around 300 views, which I'm pretty sure were all of my Facebook friends. On YouTube for about 9 months after posting the video, and it was then last year, beginning of the school year, I started to get a whole bunch of hits on it, you know, like 6,000 hits in one day, and then it kind of took off. You know, a whole bunch of people shared it on different websites, and that's kind of where it went from there. I got a couple of YouTube messages from a talent coordinator with Jay Leno and an assistant producer on Ellen, and just saying like, hey, we have these talent portions, we'd love for you to come out, you know, your video is really interesting, and same kind of reaction. Everybody just thinks it's a little crazy, and so that's pretty much where it all took off from. I was just at a regular doctor's appointment my freshman year of college with my general practitioner, and he was saying, well, you have, you know, slight scoliosis, you're tall, and he was like, do you happen to be very flexible at all? And says, you know, I'm 19 years old at this point, and it had never come up before that I'm obscenely flexible. And so I was like, yeah, check all this stuff out, and, you know, did the whole show for him. And so he sent me to a geneticist who gave me a diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. They do it based on a test called the Baton scale, and it's essentially a 10-point test of hypermobility. If you take nothing else away from this, 700,000 people now know what Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is, if any of them has glanced at the description of the video.
My mother keeps trying to set me up with doctor's appointments back home, and it doesn't really do anything for me because I can't, you know, go in the event of an emergency or like something semi-urgent. You know, I don't really have emergencies for it, but if I ever actually like dislocate my hip, like I'm gonna need to go to a doctor down here. So it's good to have that resource, I think.
The one thing that like really, really bothered me, and this is like an oddly sensitive side to me that you'll never ever see ever, was I had this thought once, because you know, for whatever reason I've always imagined myself like having a little baby girl and being able to lift her up over my head, and I thought like if I'm never able to do that, that'll be very disappointing to me. And so that's weirdly like the one thing that I think about that really just gets me down. I don't care. I feel like I'd be totally fine with having to like move around in a wheelchair or something, but like that would be the #1 thing that I wouldn't. That would just be very depressing to me.